Hello, this is Mark watching MTC Media. So the Boston Celtics have gone up 3-0. If you had looked at my 3 to Make 2 podcast prior to Game 3, I said, the one thing that Luka needed to do was get the others involved early. Let the others be effective early, and then you kind of come in there late on. In fact, it's why Luka has struggled in the fourth quarter of this series. His fourth quarter statistics in this series, they're abysmal. And it's because he is almost like the Houston Rockets' James Harden. He is overly ball dominant, and by the way, both of them play a lot similar than what people like to acknowledge. They are a lot closer. People might say, well, I don't like James Harden. Whether you like someone or not has nothing to do with it from a basketball perspective. They play a lot alike. And for this Dallas team to beat this particular Boston team, he has to learn, and it's the next step for Luka. You have to learn how to make players around you better. Because in the NBA, with all the talent that's in this league now, on top of the new CBA, which pretty much ensures more of a democratic distribution of this talent, the idea that there's going to be these pushovers, especially once you get to the playoffs, is kind of starting to go away. I remember I grew up in the NBA where that first 2 out of 3, sometimes it was sweep, sometimes you went to the third. There was less teams then. The talent wasn't as good, especially once you got past the 7th or 8th guy. The talent of that NBA was not as good as this NBA. In fact, there's not an era in the NBA where the talent from 7 down is better than the talent of today. It's not debatable. A lot of guys who were 7 and down in the old NBA certainly wouldn't be in today's NBA because they weren't as skilled as the 7 through 12, 7 through 13 you see in the NBA now. So for Luka and Dallas, they have as good as a chance as anyone in returning back to the NBA Finals, maybe not immediately next year, but somewhere down the road because of the path the league is going into and what the new league rules are under the CBA. So now it comes down to, what is Luka going to do? Is he going to change his game to benefit the team more? Is he going to keep his game the same, where Luka always has these splashy numbers and then everyone scream, oh, if he just had more help, when the issue isn't him needing more help? No different than James Harden didn't need more help. Allen Iverson, same way. You needed to play in a way that people would want to play with you, and people would want to feel like they're being rewarded playing with you. But if it's going to be you and then everyone else, then that's going to be difficult. And it's going to be difficult to win, because now you're saying, well, if it's not me on that night, maybe we'll win, maybe we'll lose. And against a team like the Celtics, where Dallas was at home, once again, Dallas gets off to the quick start, and they just peter out because the Celtics can keep churning and churning and churning, because the Celtics have been there. Because with Drew Holiday there, you see the Celtics more than the first time they went to the NBA Finals, sharing and sacrificing and not worry about whose team it is and what does my numbers look like and all of those things that Luka plays like. One of the things that Luka said that everyone who doesn't like the NBA celebrated, oh, it's easier to score in the NBA than when I was at Real Madrid. And it's so funny because it's much harder to win. And the one thing about the NBA is, at some point, if you're a superstar, fair, unfair, doesn't matter. Do I think it's unfair in many ways? Absolutely. But you have to win. You have to get into June, and you have to win. Because there's a special category that includes those guys. I'm old enough to remember when Dr. J didn't have a title. And that was the only thing you'd hear about. Man, Doc got to get one. We got to find a way for Doc to get one. People were more rooting for him to get one than in today's age. Now, people use you not winning a title as a way to discount your career. It wasn't so much that way with Doc. People were rooting for him. No one said, oh my gosh, we got to put an asterisk beside the 83 76ers title for Doc because he needed help to get it when they went and acquired Moses Malone. He couldn't do it when he was the unquestioned guy, when he was the unquestioned best player. We didn't do that. This generation does that quite a bit. I see how you guys treat LeBron. You guys do it quite a bit, which always makes me wonder how Dr. J would have been received in today's environment. Because Dr. J was the one that was up 2-0 when it was unquestioned his team. That they were up 2-0 against Portland and lost 4 straight. That was Dr. J's team. It's Dr. J's team that blew a 3-1 lead to the Boston Celtics in the playoffs. And how you guys hammer time people today when that stuff happens. Oh my goodness, it'd be a different reception, but I digress. Back with Luka, Luka needs to grow up. All the constant whining and complaining, he does. All the instance of entitlement, he does. Not getting back on defense because you're laying on the floor with your hands out. The level of professional immaturity that he shows when things aren't going his way has killed the Dallas Mavericks in the first 3 games. His not understanding on how to manage a team as a superstar is killing his team right now. And this is one of the things, and I always say it, you guys wanted more physicality in the NBA. Well, you got it. They had the memo that went out mid-season, and a lot of things aren't being called. But you know what? A lot of things aren't being called for Jason Tatum either. When he goes to the front of the rim, you know how many times he's being pushed and bumped and everything else? On every rebound, the amount of holding now in the lane on every rebound, it's just there. They're just daring the referee to call it because they know not as many things are being called. So where's the adjustment? You know, I'll go back to the 1980s. There was not a more physical team in the 1980s than the Boston Celtics. And the Detroit Pistons, the bad boys, became the bad boys and was constructed that way because that was the only way they knew they could beat the Celtics, was by being more physical than the Celtics, because no one was more physical than Boston. And then they took that physicality to the Jordan era. And then, you know, people tend to forget all the losses Jordan had because people only concentrate on the 6 years, but they don't concentrate on all them butt whippings Mike took. And he took a boatload of them. Boatload of them. For them to finally come over by matching Detroit's physicality. And the thing is about this is all those teams made an adjustment. Their best players on that team, those teams, made an adjustment. Isaiah, when he first came to the league, was a scorer. And everyone back then said, you can't have a scoring point guard and win a title. That's not how winners manage a team. And Isaiah found the balance between both, especially once they got Joe Dumars. When I'll have my pockets when I score, but I know it's important for me to get these other guys involved. Mike, people like to revise history. They love being a revisionist. Mike was thought of as a ball hawk that will put up these nice numbers. He ain't ever going to win. Mike changed his game. Mike changed his mentality. Mike knew how important it was to get the other guys involved. Because those big numbers didn't mean anything to Mike if he didn't have no rings to go with those big numbers. Those big numbers didn't mean anything to Isaiah because Isaiah knew that without a ring, those big numbers don't mean nothing. It's why guys like Barkley, guys like Ewing, that's why it hurts them so bad. They have every number and accomplishment that you would want as a player. And they don't have any rings from an era where, man, my goodness, man, you wanted that chance to have that trophy. More than the money and everything, you wanted more than the numbers, all that stuff. You wanted to have a chance to have that trophy. You look at LeBron. As much as you guys hate on LeBron, the idea that he went to the finals as many times as he did in the NBA, that's bonkers. We don't appreciate it enough. especially the first team that got swept by the Spurs when he dragged the team that was 2-5 offsuit, dragged them to the finals. Same goes for Steph. If you take out the KD teams, the way that they built that team, the way that they made adjustments, the way that they changed the way that they played, the way that they shared the ball, the way that they did it was about winning basketball. Luka's not ready to play winning basketball. Luka is when he's playing right now, he's playing stat sheet basketball. I'm the best player. I play for stat sheet basketball, and on some nights it's good enough. Hell, they're in the NBA Finals. And some nights it's not. And when Luka changes his attitude, when he understands and makes the adjustment of how to win in today's NBA, Dallas Mavericks going to have a chance to win a title somewhere down the line. Hell, Boston, if there's ever a team that would love to give you back a 3-0 lead, it's the Boston Celtics. It's this version of the Boston Celtics. You know, they would love to give back this 3-0 lead. But Luka's going to have to learn, man. At the end of the day, this isn't Real Madrid. At the end of the day, the snide comment about trying to imply it's so much easier. And right now, when he decides that he wants to be a professional, and when he decides that he wants to be a winner, then things change. But if he just wants to be a big numbers, big crybaby guy, we'll see if Dallas ever gets back here. Because you guys know the West. I wouldn't count out Denver to be back here next year. I wouldn't count out a boatload of teams in the West not to be in a better position than Dallas come next year. Sometimes you only get one chance. Sometimes you don't get that second chance until later in your career. So Luka, in today's NBA, they have a great chance at winning at least 2 games in a series. A great chance of somewhere going back to the NBA Finals. Luka's that good. When Luka decides that he wants to be known for being that person, sky's the limit. And we won't have this conversation anymore. But until then, it's going to be a big crybaby with big numbers. Kind of like James Harden. It's Marcus Washington. I'm MTC Media.